Hello once again, Monster Hobbies Model Car Garage Mechanics. Welcome back to another little episode here. So, unfortunately, I have to admit something. I've been wrong about a certain types of model cars, and I've been actually saying the wrong thing in some of these videos. So, what I've been saying is, you know these multi-piece kits by Revell and Lindbergh, which used to be Pyro kits? I've been saying that back in the day, they did not know how to make a one-piece body, and that came later on in production, and eventually Revell and Pyro and those companies had to switch to making one-piece bodies. Well, that's totally wrong. So what I've discovered through doing some internet research is that model companies were making one-piece bodies. That being, of course, Johan with this 1956 Pontiac, and then AMT with this 58 Edsel. This is the original promo one, so it's even got the pins underneath. I'll be showing this in an upcoming video because I know you guys saw that and went, oh. And then I don't know who made this one, but this is from back in the 50s as well. Of course, a 57 Chevy. This is the 210 wagon. I got this from my friend John Harry's, and unfortunately I'm not sure, but it looks to me like the front is drooping down, and even it's got a bit of an S-curve, so unfortunately I can't make a model of this, and I only have the glass. But anyway, that's beside the point. So getting back to this, these model kits, this one are 57 Ford and 136, or 56 Ford in 1/32 scale with the figures. I'll just show you this quick here. But again, that's your one-piece body in there. See the side panel? And then in 25th scale, we've got the 60 Corvette and the Pyro, which is now Lindbergh 48 Lincoln. And when I unbox these kits, I'll show you more about them. But at any rate, so the multi-piece body. So I've done a little research on the internet, and I'm just going to look straight through here on my screen behind me. So here is the story with Revell. So Revell primarily produced multi-piece model car bodies to allow for greater detail and realism, to achieve more complex shapes in the injection molding process, and to facilitate various kit options and customization. So this Corvette, I've looked it up on ScaleMates. This one is basically the stock 50. This kit came out in 1959 and was basically the stock Corvette. And then later in 59, they did a racing version. And what's nice about this is they used the multi-piece body, but they replaced the back where the trunk and fenders are. And that piece, they put in a headrest, streamlined headrest. So in that mold, they would have only had to tool up that one section, which would be the back here. So anyway, I'll read on here. Okay, key reasons include increased realism and detail. A multi-piece body allows model designers to incorporate features like separate door panels, hoods, and trunk lids that can be built to be opened, revealing highly detailed interiors and engines. A single-piece curbside body, without opening parts, limits the level of detail that can be displayed. Okay, so there's that part. Manufacturing feasibility. The injection molding process has limitations. Creating a complex car body with deep undercuts, such as wheel wells, like in there, window frames and grille detail in a single piece can be difficult or impossible without molding issues like sink marks, warping, or an inability to eject the part from the mold, so getting it out of the mold. Breaking the body down into separate panels like side panels, front, rear sections, or fenders simplifies the molding process for each individual part. Design feasibility. Using multiple pieces allows Revell to offer variations of the same basic tooling. For example, a stock version, a custom version, or a racing version. So like I was saying with this one, by adding that different back trunk lid, they're saving their costs as opposed to redesigning the entire body and other pieces in the kit as one piece. Okay, different grills, fenders, or rear sections can be included on separate sprues or in different boxings without creating an entirely new, expensive single-piece mold. Cost efficiency in some cases. While multiple-piece kits can be more complex to engineer, they can offer manufacturing cost savings by avoiding the need for extremely complex and expensive molds required for highly detailed single-piece bodies. Those savings can be passed on to the consumer. Skill development for modelers. Some modelers appreciate the challenge that multi-piece kits present, seeing it as an opportunity to develop advanced building skills such as ensuring proper alignment and seamless joints, as opposed to simply assembling preformed components. While multi-piece bodies can sometimes result in fit issues, if the builder is not careful, they generally offer a more intricate and rewarding building experience for hobbyists seeking a higher level of detail. So there you go. There are the reasons why Revell did it. But what about Pyro or Lindbergh? Well, Lindbergh bought the molds from Pyro. But what about them? So here we have our 48 Lincoln. This was an original Pyro kit back in 1957. And here's the box for that. So that's when the kit came out, was 57. And if I open this up again, you'll see that multi-piece body. And here's the trunk lid, for example, up here. And there are separate fenders up in there and all that kind of fun stuff. We'll take a look at this more in detail later, of course. It's slated on the list for unboxings. Alright, but why did Pyro do this? So Pyro had a different philosophy, although same principle. Pyro produced multi-piece model car bodies primarily due to the limitations of their older mirror molding tool process, and to facilitate manufacturing variations of their kits. So they use this process called mirror molding, and that seems interesting. I'll look that up some other time. Actually, okay, it tells you here. Key reasons include molding technology limitations. Pyro's primary molding technique involved two-part mirror-molded sectional components assembled horizontally. This method was effective for certain shapes but was less advanced than the side slide molding process that emerged in the mid to late 60s. Cost effectiveness. The older molding process used by Pyro was less expensive to implement than newer, more complex techniques. This allowed them to produce inexpensive kits, often selling for less than $1 in the 1960s, appealing to a younger, budget-conscious market. So Lindbergh was going for the inexpensive market to get kids started with a lower price point. You know, save up your allowance. You can at least buy Pyro kits. Did I say Lindbergh? Anyway, Pyro kits. But maybe Lindbergh used the same philosophy because I know their kits were inexpensive as well. So at any rate, they wanted the beginner and all that. So you've seen my 30-second scale unboxing kits, like the 37 Chevy and the 40 Ford and all that. Those are smaller scale, really low price point. Get people involved early, and then they can venture into like the Revell kits, which would have been a little more money, that sort of thing. Okay, so design variations. The sectional design allowed mold makers to offer multiple variations of a subject with only minor modifications to the master mold. For example, the same basic mold could be easily adapted to include custom hot rod parts or different body styles. Ease of assembly for basic kits. Many of their kits were designed to be simple and easy for children to build, even if the multi-piece bodies could be tricky to fit perfectly. While the multi-piece bodies allowed for some detail, the method eventually became obsolete as companies like AMT and MPC introduced side slide molding, which allowed for highly detailed one-piece bodies with better fit and finish. All right, so the side slide technique allows these type of bodies to be produced. So with AMT and Johan, their philosophy was totally different. AMT and Johan, there we go, were building promotional model kits for car manufacturers, the dealerships, that sort of thing. So let's say it's 1958 and the new Edsel comes out. The new Edsel, new and improved styling by Ford. Note the horseshoe radiator, you know, all that stuff, right? So when Dad went to the dealership and bought himself a new 1958 Edsel with sculpted rear taillights, okay, the kids would want one, right? So they could play with it and be like, I'm driving Daddy's car on the carpet. The car on the carpet. So you could buy one of these from AMT to keep your kids entertained, or if you bought the car and you wanted to model yourself, right? So these were available for the kids. Well, the way they came out, they had body, glass, some chrome bits, the interior as one piece underbody, and then wheels on metal axles. It's basically like a toy, right? So the parents would buy those for the kids, and then that way the kid would have something to play with, and Dad would have the real car, or Mom and Dad would have the real car, whatever, right? So that was the philosophy. So they couldn't make these multi-piece bodies and that sort of thing because kid would play with it and punch in the sides or whatever, right? So instead, they came up with that side slide molding process, and Johan had it as well, and they could make these as one-piece bodies that are pretty indestructible. I mean, this is a thick molding in here. This is pretty much double the thickness of anything that you would get today. And again, very durable, very complex. The hood's molded shut, the trunk lids are molded shut. It's basically like 10 pieces to put this together, which don't want to come apart, you know, once they're together, so that they've got that little safety element so kids don't break them off and swallow the parts or whatever. But Johan and AMT, they were car guys, and they were working for car manufacturers and at that level. Whereas, well, Pyro was doing it to save cost, but Revell, they were building model airplanes, model ships, and that sort of thing before they ventured into model cars. So if you actually look at this one, for example, and even the Corvette, it used to come with a driver back in '59, but somewhere he got lost. But these are still around. So you get a female sitting down, or a woman, a woman sitting down in the car, and you get this man standing beside her. And other cars had other figures doing other things, like the Pontiac Club de Mer. It's got Mr. and Mrs. de Mer sitting in the car. She's looking at him. He's driving down the road with one hand down the side of the car because the car's so low. But anyway, if you think about it, you stop and think about this for a minute. Imagine this as a World War II, I don't know, let's say a Spitfire or something, right? Revell makes a Spitfire model kit. What would Revell put in the model kits back in the day? Well, they'd be multi-piece bodies, right and left-hand side fuselage, wings top and bottom, plug into the fuselage, a little cockpit goes up underneath, or, well, no, you build one side and you put the cockpit on the one side, and then you put the body on the, you know, the other side body, and it encloses that area. And then you've got the glass canopy, you've got your rudder with the tail fins and the ailerons, and then you've got the wheels down below. You could put them down for the plane to be landed on the table, or have them folded up and hang it from the ceiling, right? That sort of thing. The ship models... Sorry, I thought there would be a battleship or something on the side of the box. But ship models are the same way. Two hull pieces glued together, and then it's like a sandwich with all the decks going on top and the guns and the ports and everything. It's all like that. So Revell's philosophy with model cars, because they were a model building company and not a car promotional car company, that, because, you know, if you think of AMT, they start off with promos like this, and then after a while they start making opened engine bays, but the interiors are still promos. Like, think of AMT's 64 Chevy Impala kit that I've unboxed on this channel. Again, same thing. It's a promo, but now it's got an engine. So AMT sort of went from promotional models to models with engines to models with steerable wheels, and they started progressing as they went along, adding in more parts to make it a model kit. Whereas Revell started off making these as model kits and then went to more simplified methods like, I wouldn't say promos, but, almost promos, right? The opening hood and that sort of thing. So one company went and grew this way. The other company went I wouldn't say backwards, but they accommodated in the reverse direction, and that would be Revell. So imagine this as a model airplane kit without wings. And that's what you have. So you've got the right and left hand sides of the body. You've got the hood popping on, not the hood, but the entire front cowl section going in and gluing together. You've got the opening hood. You've got the trunk and the back being separate and gluing in. And then you get figures, just like these would be mechanics on the original aircraft kits. So this is Revell's thinking back in the day. We'll just build the model kits like we do our battleships and our airplanes. So every model car gets a figure. Every model car goes together like a model airplane. Multi-pieces, this sort of thing. And that's how we'll do it. So my whole theory of Revell didn't know how to make a one-piece mold was nonsense. So I apologize for that. And in future videos, I'm never going to say that again. But the philosophy was really, let's build a model airplane without the wings. And that was the way Revell did it back in the early 50s. And you got that with this one, the 60 Corvette, I don't know where it is behind me, but the 57 Cadillac that Atlantis reissued, but that was originally a Revell. And there's multiple ones. There's one in the corner here, probably, oh no, it's right there. This is a 57 Ford Ranchero. That's one I got from John Harry's, and after he passed away. But unfortunately, there's 3 in there, and they're all glued together, so I've got to figure out how to get them apart. There's only one that doesn't have the roof cut off, so I'm going to try to build that in a future video. But at any rate, those kits were all that multi-piece, and they're all built in that let's build a model aircraft without wings philosophy. And it wasn't until much later in the, I guess, early mid-60s that Revell started to bring out the one-piece bodies. And I think the first ones of those are the 55 Chevy and the 57 Chevy. The one with the opening doors, the trunk, the hood, the steering wheels, or posable wheels, the extra interior pieces. There's the 55, 56, 57 Chevy that are like that. And the 56, the one I have anyway, I can't build it stock factory, although it offers a lot of stock pieces. They've molded in a custom interior with like swoopy 60s customizing buckets and no factory bench seat or anything like that. But at any rate, all those kits are all following that philosophy. Whereas Pyro, they just want to save a buck. At any rate. So that's my big announcement, my big apology, however you want to say that I was wrong on that. But pretty much everything else, I think I'm doing okay. So anyway, model builders, look forward to future videos, unboxings of these kits. Now that I have them out, I might as well do them. And until next time, everybody, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you want to see what model kits I have for sale online, visit us at www.monster-hobbies.ca. Because after all, I am Monster Hobbies. This is not Trevor in his basement type guy. Regular lone wolf out there. I own a business. So I've got lots of models to offer you guys that are out there building kits, young and old, and everything else. And until next time anyway, happy model building. We'll see you in the next video.